And same thing with books. Try to ban them and see what happens. A lot of things, there's some class of, I call it, what do I call it? Refractory love, where people try, like in Proust, where people have obsessive love. And the more you try to repress it, the stronger it gets. A lot of things get stronger under repression and belong to that class of anti-fragile, and they all can be mapped as convex. Yes, go ahead.
Some of the systems that you mentioned, the difference of that, I'm just trying to compare that to the financial markets, is if you have a period of stability and all of a sudden you get cancer, you usually don't recover back yourself. Or if you have a fragile item, it breaks down, it usually doesn't recover itself. But how would you compare that to financial markets? Doesn't have extra property.
Okay, let me link this to the question earlier, because now I remember, that I didn't give full answer to the question earlier. A system that has a lot of parts independent that break sequentially and is going to improve. How? Take, for example, transportation, or take engineering. Every bridge that collapses makes every other bridge in the country safer. You see, so the probability of a building that collapses makes every building in the country, all right? The probability of the next building collapsing smaller, okay? Smaller or equal, but doesn't get worse. So when you have a system composed of small units that break sequentially, fail without contagion effects, the system improves from failure. And exactly this is what kills me, made other stronger. And that's a benign system, or a system that's actually anti-fragile. Now, take banking, take large corporations. When one fails, the other, it increases the probability of the other failing, then the system doesn't work well, okay? That's one thing to answer him and get into your point. He's asking me whether financial markets, what benefits they have. Well, people think that they're good at providing information. In fact, they're great at masking information, and that's why it works, you see. It prevents panics. Say if someone is predictable and comes home every day at 5:30, boom, you can set your watch. He walked in. And one day he's late. What would happen? 2 minutes and everybody freaks out, he's not here. Whereas someone a little more random in his arrival time will not cause a panic. Well, it's the same thing with prices. That's one of the aspects. Another thing with prices is that volatility prevents big collapses, because it's just like a forest. You have flammable materials. Steady small forest fires, clean up that flammable material. Don't let it accumulate. What happened was Greenspan, by stabilizing everything, no volatility or minimized volatility, something they call the Great Moderation, resembles the Great Peace. You had a lot of hidden risks in the system, very explosive, ready to explode, and effectively, we saw what happened. They blew up. So this is where financial markets, by bringing volatility, clean up the system periodically. So that explains it. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. The question I had was, how does your work reflect on how you think about conglomerates and family businesses, especially in the developing world, where there seems to be a high concentration of preservation and a model where they actually look for stability versus chasing the variation?
This is a good question. I don't know much about, I looked at family data for businesses, and effectively in what we call today the OECD countries, they have staying power because they have what I call skin in the game, among other things, and among other qualities. Now, conglomerates, I have no idea, you see. I just like the conglomerate I work for, namely the owner of the owner of Random House, Bertelsmann, because they're not listed in the market. Okay. Now, although I like market volatility, I don't like people to fit the company to the security analysts who don't understand hidden risk. And the stock market tend to push companies to hide risks in the tails because the security analysts don't have a good tool to analyze second-order effects. Go ahead.
How much of the anti-fragility phenomena that you're talking about across systems is really about evolutionary learning, and that the two curves, knowledge versus, I forget what the other one was labeled, but it was the anti-fragile curve, is really about two different forms of acquiring knowledge. One is through, one is for acquiring articulate knowledge through articulate processes, and the other one is for acquiring inarticulate knowledge, the kind of knowledge that Hayek talks about.